Last 8 issues of the day with T Radar now. Joining us this morning, T Radar.
Good morning. What's less than a week to go? We're counting down the hours.
Yeah.
You can count them on the fingers of one hand. If you had some kind of physical abnormality, which means you had a large number of fingers on your hand. Like a centipede hand.
Centipede hands, yes. In
Yeah.
fact, I saw that this election described like the human centipede by someone the other day. Like the media were kind of like the human centipede. If you know what I mean?
That's one of the most sort of visceral and oddly disturbing images of the media and politicians that I think I've ever had. I don't know. Can what be heard ever be unheard, Wammo?
Well, it's true. Well,
it's left an odd taste in my mouth.
The news today is a centipede without legs, meaning that it's a worm today. Last week, of course, was teapots, right? Today, it's the worm, and that's going to dominate probably the rest of the week.
It probably will, I suspect. For those people who didn't see it last night, obviously the leaders' debate. I'm one of the people who didn't see it. I had, I just
Better thing to do.
sort of knew it was on, but I kind of went, might just do something else instead. They brought back the worm that did so well for Peter Dunn. Catapulted him into sort of from obscurity into relative anonymity some years ago. And they supported Goff last night. But interesting, there'll be a bit of a brouhaha, I suspect, about how they got the people in the studio. They were supposed to be, sort of non-committed voters, but some of the right-wing blogs have come out and said, well, some of them are sort of Labour Party activists, and it's interesting in this day and age. A bit of a Google search doesn't go astray if you're there. You go, who is this person? Google them and go, I see. So whether or not they had stacked the, deliberately, there will be a discussion as to whether or not Labour deliberately stacked the panel, or whether some Labour activists or supposed Labour activists decided to go and take it on their own account and go in. But then, as someone, I think Mark Boone, who tweeted a little while ago, says National could have done the same thing.
Well, that's true. But then again, there I was sitting there thinking, the Roy Morgan people probably scientifically, asked a series of questions to these people and then worked out that they were definitely undecided. But no, that's probably not the case at all. It's just
no, not the case.
No,
in fact, someone did post an email that apparently is purported to have gone out from TV3 saying, look, do you want to come along? If you're, if you think you might be a bit undecided, we'll give you $70 for your transport costs and lay on some snacks and nibbles. You probably are in a situation like this going to get people who are potentially undecided about their undecidedness.
Can you believe it, T-Radar? Here we are, not talking about policy or issues, we're talking about the damn worm.
Isn't, again, and it's all these sort of side things, and no one's discussing sort of education policy. With what a National coming out and say, what is it, personality tests or something for teachers?
You ever taken one of those?
A personality test?
Yeah.
No, but I'd quite like to.
Oh, I
always wanted to go and do one of those Scientology ones and just sort of, try to convince them that I'm perhaps, some kind of moral degenerate with a fetish for doing things that shouldn't be done, and just to see what would happen, to see whether they'd let me leave, or whether that, would they go out and report to the police, going, I think this guy really could do with some psychological help.
Or would they embrace you into the church?
Maybe they would attempt to convert me and make me a better person, or think, actually, this is the kind of person we need in Scientology, because we need the ruthless and the amoral in order to help keep everyone else in line. Yes,
that leads us quite nicely onto Michael Laws.
Your segues today really should. If there was a sort of a Qantas award for best segues, I would be nominating you today. Yes, Michael Laws not on air again today. Apparently, wasn't on air yesterday. A bit of a sort of a fracas breaking out over the fact that last week he said it tongue in cheek, and if you listen to Laws, a lot of the stuff does kind of sound that way. But there are things that, as a broadcaster, you should probably take responsibility for not saying. And he essentially said last week that New Zealand journalists had gone so over the top, and particularly those from the Herald on Sunday, that it wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't know how exactly he phrased it. He just sort of suggested that he was surprised no one had gone in and gunned them down in their place of work.
Yeah.
Now, there was a lot of controversy coming out of the States recently when the Palinites and various others sort of used these sort of strong, suggestive metaphors in a way, and then of course there was a couple of a politician was shot in the head by someone, and they were even in sort of worse over there in their campaigns. I think Sarah Palin, they were targeting people and with actual sort of gunsight targets on posters, going target this person, saying oh no, it's just a metaphor, meaning we should target them for being voted out. But of course, you put a gunsight over someone's face, and it only takes one slightly deranged person to go in and do something stupid.
And it was taken seriously by the media outlets, posting security guards on the Friday after that show.
Yes.
In their building.
So, I suspect there are some very strong conversations being had within some of these media outlets at this point in time as to whether or not, further action should be taken, or indeed some kind of apology issued, or a censuring of said Michael Laws.
Perhaps so. Yeah, possibly not quite as dumb as the criminal who left a bag behind.
Look, there are some pretty stupid criminals out there, and in a week full of politics, what you want is something slightly more humanistic and moronic in a way. And there was a guy, he went back to his car had been broken in down in sort of central Auckland. He chased the offenders away, but one of them had used his own bag to smash the window open, and had left his bag in the car. Which wouldn't have been so bad, but it contained his phone, his wallet, and his insulin. And if you don't get your insulin, if you're sort of a diabetic, then obviously, you can die.
You're in trouble,
and
aren't
you? Yes, to cap it all off, the phone rang, and it happened to be this chap's wife, demanding to know where her husband was. And he said, well, he's been out here breaking into cars. And the guy who sort of had the phone said, look, what really was tragic about this was that the guy was 30. He wasn't some sort of 17-year-old. And quote of the week, I think, has to go to this guy. He said, look, the cops will do their thing. He may get bail out of it. He's not going to get bail out of home. He said that's a life sentence. Having to go back to his angry wife.
God. And how old was he, 30?
He said he was around about 30 years. So, out there breaking into cars.
And already jaded and talking like a 50-year-old.
Yes. The guy who was whose car it was sort of 43.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh.
Yes, it was the car burglar was sort of in his sort of early 30s.
Yeah.
I suppose you don't think of people in their early 30s doing that. You think of it as being the youth.
Yeah. And finally, Te Rauta, to finish up this week's issues, a surgical mishap.
Oh, look, every so often there's a bit of tragedy out there in the world. Some of it sort of freely brought on. Worst story, I think, of the week this year. A woman wanted to get, some sort of plastic surgery done. Couldn't afford to do it on the normal sort of methods. She wanted to be more curvaceous, so she found a woman who filled her buttocks with cement, mineral oil, and flat tire sealant.
Hang on, what?
Mineral oil, cement, and flat tire sealant. And obviously, that's something that does tend to not really go well inside the body.
No.
She went to hospital. There was a woman, with all these sort of weeping wounds and a lot of pain and various things. She went to the hospital. This is terrible. First time, too embarrassed to actually say what happened, fled. It went, I can't do it, nothing. She went back again eventually when it got so bad. And I think they've now arrested someone who was a man who dresses and identifies as a woman, posing as a doctor, who did the surgery.
Crikey,
you see a lot of these on these terrible programs from the States, and you think, really? No. When you're going to get something injected into your body, do you really want to do it on the cheap?
Not at all. Not at all. Wow.
There's got to be a message in there somewhere for the events of the coming 5 days.
Yeah, well, we piece that together. We'll go off and play a tune. Thanks very much, Te Rauta.
We'll speak again next week when no doubt we will have a new lineup of power brokers.
We'll be in post-election coitus or something.
Lying gently together, just holding hands and smoking cigarettes.
Rocking. Yeah.
We'll speak again.
See ya.